They ended up having you,
Yeah.
but your father ended up passing when you were 2 years old.
Yes.
So you never really got a chance to really know him like that.
Yeah.
Imagine discovering that your whole family story has been turned upside down, like a bad pancake. That's exactly what happened when Damian Marley's life took an unexpected turn. The reggae star, known for carrying on his father's legendary legacy, is now making headlines for something way more personal. After a DNA test dropped results that no one saw coming, Damian decided to cut all ties, and we're not talking about hair this time. In this video, we'll break down what happened, how the news hit fans, and why this revelation is shaking up conversations far beyond the Marley name. Early beginnings. Picture this. You grow up with the weight of a legendary last name, a nickname with street cred, and a story that starts before you can even walk. That is the reality for Damian Jr. Gong Marley, the reggae powerhouse who took his father's rhythm and carved out his own lane in music history. Let's set the record straight. Damian Robert Nesta Marley, born July 21, 1978, was never just Bob Marley's youngest son. He grew into a 4-time Grammy winner, with a career that blends old-school reggae roots with modern sounds that hit just as hard in Kingston as they do in New York or London. Damian is the only child born to Bob Marley and Cindy Breakspear, the Jamaican jazz singer who turned heads worldwide when she won Miss World in 1976. That victory put her on the map, but her connection to Bob Marley stamped her name in reggae history. Their son, Damian, arrived during a complicated chapter in Bob's personal life. Like several of Bob's children, he was born outside of Bob's marriage to Rita Marley. This blended, extended, and sometimes unconventional family dynamic would shape the way Damian viewed loyalty, music, and identity from a young age. Originally, Damian's name wasn't Damian at all. It was Damian. That small detail might not sound like a big deal, but to Bob Marley, it was a serious issue. After watching the film Damian, Omen 2, a movie all about the Antichrist, Bob became uneasy about his son sharing a name tied to such dark symbolism. As a Rastafarian, Bob took spiritual matters seriously. One of his final wishes while in Germany was to have his young son's name changed to Damian. To Bob, it was more than a name swap. It was a way to protect his child from carrying energy he saw as negative. That change stuck. Damian grew up not only with a new name, but also with a moniker that carried legacy weight. Junior Gong, a nod to Bob's own nickname, Tough Gong. Tragedy struck early. Damian was just 2 years old when Bob Marley passed away. The loss meant Damian never got the chance to know his father beyond family stories, photos, and of course, the music. But what he missed in direct mentorship, he gained in inherited passion. His early years were shaped by the musical environment around him. Being a Marley came with instant recognition, but it also meant expectations were sky high. Damian didn't just have to make good music. He had to make music that could stand beside one of the most celebrated catalogs in history. Family business. Ever been in a band with your friends, thinking you're going to make it big, only to split up before you even get a proper logo? Damian Marley knows that feeling all too well, except his teenage garage band was opening for one of the biggest reggae festivals on the planet. At just 13, Damian teamed up with the daughter of reggae great Freddie McGregor and the son of Third World's guitarist Cat Coor to form a group called The Shepherds. And no, they weren't out herding sheep, but they were out to herd fans. Their biggest moment came in '92 when they stepped onto the stage at Reggae Sunsplash, a massive annual festival in Jamaica. For a young band, this was like getting called up to play in the Super Bowl halftime show. But like most teen bands, the Shepherds didn't last. By the early '90s, the group had dissolved. While some might have hung up the mic, Damian took it as his cue to go solo, and that's where things really started heating up. With the backing of his father's label, Tough Gong, Damian dropped his debut album Mr. Marley in '96. Fans expecting silky reggae singing got a surprise. Instead of sticking to his father's traditional vocal style, Damian leaned heavily into DJing, delivering rhythmic, rapid-fire lyrics over the beats. This was not your typical Marley sound, and it caught a lot of listeners off guard. But Damian wasn't here to copy-paste his dad's legacy. He was here to put his own stamp on the family name, and that meant experimenting with style and sound from day one. Damian's second album, Halfway Tree, dropped on September 11, 2001, and the meaning behind the title ran deeper than most realized at first. It symbolized Damian's life experience. His mother, Cindy Breakspear, came from the wealthier side of town, while his father, Bob Marley, grew up in more modest circumstances. Damian saw himself as someone standing between those two worlds. The album cover even featured the famous clock tower from Halfway Tree in Kingston, a place with its own rich history as a cultural hub. And yes, it was intentional. The message was clear. Damian understood both sides of Jamaica's social landscape. The album was a collaboration with his brother Stephen Marley, who had also co-produced Mr. Marley. The chemistry worked. Halfway Tree went on to win the 2002 Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album, cementing Damian's place as a serious force in the industry. By the time Damian's third album rolled around, he was ready to shake things up. Welcome to Jamrock was released in September 2005, hitting the US first and the UK a day later. It sold 86,000 copies in its first week and went gold in the United States with over 500,000 sales. But it wasn't just the sales that made this album iconic, it was the title track. Produced with his brother Stephen and built on a rhythm originally used by Ini Kamoze 2 decades earlier, Welcome to Jamrock wasn't some feel-good beach tune. It was raw, direct, and unafraid to tackle uncomfortable truths about Jamaica's poverty, politics, and crime. The single stirred up controversy at home. Some critics felt it painted the island in a bad light, but many others, including academics, praised it for addressing real issues head-on. Dr. Clinton Hutton of the University of the West Indies described the track as a powerful reminder of Jamaica's struggles and resilience, calling it a fire of frustration, creativity, and hope. In other words, Damian wasn't just making hits, he was making statements. Welcome to Jamrock went on to reach number 13 on the UK singles chart and number 55 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Rolling Stone later ranked it as one of the top 100 songs of the decade. Not bad for a track that pulled 0 punches. The Welcome to Jamrock album was loaded with standout tracks. The Master Has Come Back was a confident follow-up that reminded fans Damian wasn't going anywhere. Road to Zion, featuring rapper Nas, bridged reggae and hip-hop in a way that felt seamless, showing Damian's ability to cross genres without losing authenticity. And Khaki Suit, with heavy hitters Bounty Killer and Ika Mouse, kept the dancehall energy alive. This was an album that didn't just perform well, it expanded Damian's audience across the globe. Damian Marley's journey from a teenage band at Reggae Sunsplash to the global success of Welcome to Jamrock is a testament to persistence, evolution, and fearlessness. He's never been afraid to break away from expectations, whether it was by DJing on his debut, framing an album around his mixed social roots, or dropping one of the most politically charged reggae songs of the 2000s. Through it all, Damian has stayed true to himself. He's proven that carrying the Marley name doesn't mean living in the shadow of Bob. It means carrying the torch in your own way. And judging by the impact of his work, that torch is still burning bright, carrying on the legacy. You know you're having a good night when you walk away from the Grammy Awards holding not 1, but 2 trophies. And Damian Marley is the only Jamaican reggae artist in history who can say he's done it. In 2006, his Welcome to Jamrock album took home Best Reggae Album and Best Urban Alternative Performance, making him the only reggae artist to ever win that second category. That's the kind of mic drop moment that cements you in music history. But Damian wasn't about to stop there. 2 years later, he popped up on Mariah Carey's EXMC2 album, trading verses with the pop powerhouse on the track Cruise Control. Then, in 2009, he made headlines again when Nas told MTV they were working on a full album together. This wasn't just a music project. They planned to use it to help build schools in Africa while sending a message about empowerment, unity, and shared roots. That album, Distant Relatives, dropped on May 17, 2010. The title wasn't just poetic. It reflected Damian and Nas's connection through African ancestry and their shared vision of merging reggae and hip-hop in a way that celebrated cultural pride. The two had already collaborated before on Road to Zion from Welcome to Jamrock, so the chemistry was there. Damian and his brother Stephen produced much of the record, giving it a dub rock foundation, while Nas brought his sharp lyricism. The album didn't just get critical love, it sold. In its first week, Distant Relatives debuted at number 5 on the US Billboard 200 with 57,000 copies sold. It also hit #1 on Billboard's Reggae, R&B, hip-hhop, and rap albums charts, making it a triple genre win. Internationally, it reached number 33 in Europe, number 30 in the UK, number 9 in Canada, and charted in Germany as well. The first single, As We Enter, was released in February 2010 and cracked the top 10 on iTunes' hip-hop rap charts. In the UK, it landed at number 39 on the singles chart. Alongside the music, Damian, Steven, and Nas took part in a sold-out panel hosted by National Geographic, focusing on the African diaspora's influence on music and the power of collaborations like theirs to bridge communities. Just when fans thought they had Damian pegged, he went and joined a supergroup with one of the biggest rock stars alive. In 2011, Mick Jagger announced Super Heavy, a band that also included Dave Stewart of Eurythmics fame, British soul singer Joss Stone, and Oscar-winning composer A.R.D. Rahman. The project was Dave Stewart's brainchild, sparked by the sounds he heard while staying in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica. He envisioned mixing reggae rhythms with Indian orchestrations, and with that, the lineup was set. The name Super Heavy was inspired by Muhammad Ali, and the group recorded about 35 hours of material starting back in 2009. Their debut album featured a mix of styles you don't often hear in the same place. The lead single, Miracle Worker, featured Marley, Jagger, and Stone trading vocals over a reggae groove. It even got a colorful music video shot at Paramount Studios in Los Angeles. Another track, Satyameva Jayate, had Jagger singing in Sanskrit over Rahman's Indian-inspired arrangement, timed to drop around India's Independence Day in 2011. While Super Heavy didn't dominate the charts, it proved Damian's willingness to step outside genre boundaries and try something unpredictable. Damian's genre-bending streak didn't stop there. In 2012, he teamed up with electronic producer Skrillex for Make It Bun Dem, a track that blended reggae and EDM with undeniable energy. The song was later featured in the video game Far Cry 3, introducing Marley's voice to a whole new audience. Around the same time, Affairs of the Heart topped reggae charts in Jamaica, showing that even while he explored new sounds, Damian could still deliver pure, heartfelt reggae that resonated with his core audience. After several years of collaborations and side projects, Damian returned with a full studio album of his own. Stony Hill, released in July 2017, marked his fourth solo record and proved he hadn't lost his touch for crafting meaningful layered reggae. Its first single, Nail Pond Cross, had dropped the year before, setting the tone for the socially aware messages that would run throughout the project. The album went on to win Best Reggae Album at the 60th Annual Grammy Awards, bringing Damian's career Grammy count to 4. What makes Damian Marley's career so remarkable isn't just the awards or the big-name collaborations. It's how much ground he's covered without losing his core identity. He's as comfortable trading verses with Nas about African unity as he is singing a love ballad, experimenting with EDM, or stepping into a rock reggae fusion supergroup. That flexibility has kept him relevant across decades and genres. From the politically charged energy of Welcome to Jamrock to the cross-cultural experiment of Distant Relatives and the boundary-pushing Super Heavy project, Damian has consistently used his music as a tool for connection and dialogue. And while plenty of artists have made strong debuts only to fade into nostalgia acts, Damian continues to evolve. He's shown that carrying the Marley name isn't about repeating the past. It's about honoring it while writing new chapters. The DNA test. For Damian Marley, the youngest son of reggae royalty, the past few years have been a masterclass in living under a microscope. A man who has sold out stadiums, racked up Grammys, and modernized an entire genre found himself at the center of a question so personal it could shake the foundation of his legacy. Was he really Bob Marley's son? The whispers had been there from the start, mostly in the darker corners of reggae fandom, online forums, backroom debates, even grainy YouTube exposés comparing facial features as if cheekbone geometry were a paternity test. To some, Damian was an outsider in the empire his father built. He looked different. He sounded different. He didn't just sing roots reggae. He rapped. He experimented. He blended hip-hop with dancehall and dub in ways the old guard didn't always embrace. And then there was the quiet undercurrent no one wanted to name too loudly. Damian's mother, Cindy Breakspear, a Miss World title holder of mixed European heritage. That fact alone seemed to feed a subtle discomfort among certain purists. Could the light-skinned, genre-bending artist really carry the torch of a man whose voice was the sound of Rastafarian revolution? For years, Damian ignored the chatter. No interviews refuting the claim, no PR blitz with paperwork in hand. He let the music speak. Albums like Welcome to Jamrock and Stony Hill didn't just prove his talent, they redefined what reggae could be. His collaborations with Nas pushed the boundaries even further, tying African heritage to modern urban storytelling in a way that resonated globally. Still, the rumor refused to die. The turning point came quietly: a DNA test. Sources say it began as a personal exploration, an attempt to piece together the intricate puzzle of his ancestry. What Damian found wasn't just a set of percentages and family branches, it was a revelation, one that reportedly shook him to the core. Close friends described the aftermath as a time of retreat. He canceled appearances, he slipped out of the spotlight. For a man whose stage presence was electric, the absence was deafening. And yet, the disappearance didn't kill the conversation, it amplified it. Without official answers, speculation ran wild. Some believed the test confirmed the whispers, others argued it proved the opposite. All Damian himself gave, at least at first, was silence. But it wasn't the silence of someone cornered, it was the silence of someone in control. Backstage at a small show in Germany, Damian told a handful of journalists, "I don't need to prove blood to feel legacy." It wasn't a confession or a denial, it was a refusal to let someone else define him. Over time, he began to drop small clues, not in viral statements, but in verses and passing comments. In a BBC interview in 2020, he said, "My father may not have been physically there all my life, but spiritually, he's in everything I do." That was more than nostalgia. It was a statement of identity, one that acknowledged complexity without surrendering to rumor. Songs became his shield. Tracks like Looks Are Deceiving carried lines, "You see my face, but you don't know my fight," that hit like precision strikes at the heart of the gossip. These weren't accidental lyrics. They were carefully placed markers in the story he was ready to tell. By 23, the patience had worn thin. In an interview overseas, Damian cut through the years of noise with one decisive statement. "People want to debate bloodlines, but where were they when I was in the studio night after night carrying this genre forward? If the music feels real to you, then I'm real. Simple." It landed like a final chord. Not because it was scandalous, but because it was undeniable. His identity, he was saying, was not up for debate, not in chat rooms, not in headlines, not in barbershop arguments. This wasn't just about family ties, it was about creative sovereignty. Damian Marley's career has never been built on leaning into his father's image. He hasn't relied on posthumous duets or tribute albums to stay relevant. His respect for Bob is woven into his work, but it's never been the sole selling point. He built his own space, one where reggae, hip-hop, and social commentary coexist without apology. The DNA test may have been the spark for renewed speculation, but in the end, it became something else entirely, a catalyst for Damian to reassert ownership over his narrative. And in doing so, he didn't just defend his place in the Marley legacy, he redefined what that legacy means. If Bob Marley gave the world the sound of liberation, Damian has given it the soundtrack for evolution. He's not chasing his father's crown, he's crafting his own, one forged from late-night studio sessions, cross-genre innovation, and an unshakable sense of self. For those who still want to pick apart timelines and facial features, Damian's message is clear. Look past the headlines, past the noise, and listen. Because the truth, like the bass line in a reggae anthem, has always been there. Steady, deep, and impossible to fake. Damian speaks up. For months, Damian Marley let the rumors swirl like a hurricane over the Caribbean. Fans speculated, journalists whispered, and the internet churned with theories. Yet the man at the center of it all stayed silent. No interviews, no cryptic tweets, just an almost eerie stillness in a life usually soundtracked by bass lines and drum beats. That quiet shattered on an unassuming morning in early 25. Without press tours or flashy rollouts, Damian posted a single line to his official website. "Sometimes the truth comes late, but it still comes." It was a sentence that didn't shout, yet it echoed everywhere. Within hours, speculation transformed into shockwaves. Behind the scenes, reports emerged. Damian had quietly taken a private DNA test. outside the public eye and away from the Marley estate. The results, according to sources, pointed toward a truth no one could have predicted. They claimed there was no biological connection between Damian and reggae icon Bob Marley. For a man whose life had been inseparable from that legendary surname, the alleged revelation hit like a thunderclap. Damian didn't confirm the reports outright, but his next move spoke volumes. He withdrew from all upcoming Marley-branded events, including a global tour celebrating what would have been Bob Marley's 80th birthday. Weeks later, his team announced that Damian would be forging his path independently, free from inherited titles, defined only by his own identity. The headlines came fast and heavy. Fans reacted with disbelief. Media outlets scrambled for angles. But Damian's tone remained steady, almost serene. This wasn't about anger or betrayal. It was about liberation. He wasn't speaking to silence critics. He was speaking to free himself. From that moment on, Damian stood not as Bob Marley's son, but as Damian Marley, on his own terms. Damian's story has always been intertwined with questions of heritage and belonging. Growing up in the public eye, comparisons to his father were unavoidable. His successes were often framed as an extension of Bob's influence, while his individuality sometimes went unnoticed. The DNA revelations, true or not, pulled all of that into sharper focus. But here's the truth. Damian has never coasted on a surname. Since breaking onto the scene with the gritty brilliance of Welcome to Jamrock, he's built a career that refuses to play it safe. His music doesn't chase trends or pander to pop charts. It challenges political systems, calls out injustice, and gives voice to those living in the margins. From Stony Hill to Road to Zion, Damian's discography isn't just entertainment, it's protest, it's truth-telling. It's a reminder that reggae isn't a relic of the past. It's a living, breathing force for change. Despite his global fame, Damian has avoided the trappings of celebrity excess. There's no sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, no gold-plated lifestyle broadcasts on social media. Instead, he stays rooted in Jamaica, close to the streets and communities that shaped him. This groundedness isn't a PR tactic, it's a choice. He invests his time in causes that matter, supporting underfunded schools, visiting orphanages, and bringing resources to neighborhoods the cameras rarely show. His work isn't just about preserving Bob Marley's music, it's about carrying forward the spirit behind it. Damian has taken on the role of mentor, lifting up new artists and producing music that pushes reggae forward without losing its soul. Whether collaborating with his brothers Stephen, Julian, and Ziggy, or working with international acts, his focus is on building bridges, not just between genres, but between generations. The pressure of being a Marley is both privilege and burden. It comes with open doors, but also unrelenting expectations. People don't just want to hear your music, they want to measure you against a legend. For years, Damian endured questions that had little to do with his artistry. The media obsessed over the mythology of his father's absence more than the presence of Damian's own voice. And yet, he kept creating. Album after album, he proved his place not through explanations, but through excellence. That's why this latest chapter feels less like a scandal and more like a transformation. The DNA revelation didn't diminish Damian, it amplified his independence. It forced the world to see him for what he's always been, an artist, an activist, and a man who refuses to be defined by circumstances beyond his control. If anything, the fallout from Damian's announcement revealed something about all of us. It showed how quick we are to reduce a person to their bloodline, and how slow we are to measure them by their contributions. For Damian, this moment wasn't about rejecting a name, it was about owning his narrative. Legacy, he's shown, isn't inherited. It's earned, nurtured, and carried forward by choice, not obligation. And now that he's spoken, now that the long silence is over, his story feels like it's just beginning. The real headline isn't that Damian Marley broke his silence, it's that he never needed to. His music had been telling the truth all along. From There For You to Slave Mill, his verses have always been louder than the rumors. The difference now is that the world is finally listening to the man behind them, not just the name before them. So when Damian says he's stepping into his own light, it's not a rejection of his past. It's a declaration of selfhood, one that proves you can respect where you came from while still defining where you're going. And that might be the most powerful truth of all. Family reaction. The Marley name has always carried a near mythic weight. synonymous with music, unity, and cultural pride. But after DNA results challenged the bloodline of one of reggae's most celebrated heirs, that legacy is under a cloud of quiet tension. Inside the Marley circle, emotions run deep, and the silence says more than any official statement could. Behind closed doors, insiders describe a split in sentiment. Some relatives, especially those close to matriarch Rita Marley, see Damian's withdrawal from Marley-branded projects as a painful rejection. To them, family is built on more than DNA, Bob embraced Damian, and that acceptance should have been enough. Others have chosen to stay neutral, unsure how to navigate such a personal revelation under global scrutiny. A few, in hushed tones, have voiced support for Damian's search for truth, even if it meant stepping away from the name that shaped his career. The public, meanwhile, has been anything but quiet. In Jamaica, where the Marley name is woven into national identity, the news sparked shock, heartbreak, and heated debate. Social media lit up with conflicting emotions: admiration for Damian's honesty, frustration over the disruption of a cherished legacy, and speculation about whether Bob himself ever knew. Some argued the matter should have stayed private. Others hailed Damian for doing what few would dare, prioritizing authenticity over inherited mythology. In the weeks after the revelation, changes came swiftly and deliberately. Damian unfollowed official Marley channels, pulled out of tribute concerts, and halted a planned remaster of his debut album, Mr. Marley. His performances shifted too. No more Bob covers, no Junior Gong branding, and stage visuals replaced with abstract imagery of roots breaking through concrete and masks cracking open. For those close to him, this wasn't rebellion, it was liberation. One bandmate described Damian as lighter, as if shedding the weight of expectation brought an unexpected peace. Yet the silence from the Marley estate, his mother Cindy Breakspear, and other key figures has only deepened the mystery. The story has cracked the image of the Marley legacy open, forcing fans to ask, is heritage about blood or about the bonds we choose? For now, Damian moves forward on his own terms, and in doing so, he may be rewriting what it means to be a Marley at all. Damian Marley's journey shows us that legacy isn't just about names or bloodlines. It's about owning your truth and forging your own path. If this story made you rethink what it means to carry a family name, hit that like button, subscribe for more eye-opening stories, and share this video with someone who loves a good truth bomb. Stay curious, stay real, and remember, sometimes breaking the silence is the loudest message of all. Catch you in the next one.